Good morning. Hand today is going to be pocket aces. We are early position, open raise, pretty standard. That looks like my range. And we get two calls. And our two calls are by two players that are fairly loose. This is a loose passive. We've got some information on him. He really is passive. He had queens. He raised first in with queens. He c-bet, and then as soon as the board paired, he just froze up, which I understand. It was a top card that paired, and the board was pretty wet, with 3 to straight on board, but I think overall he's going to be fairly loose. You can see the limp and call to raise stats, pocket twos, ace 3 suited, king 6 suited, king 2 suited, jack 6 suited, all of that. So when we think about that, we're going to give him all the pocket pairs. We're going to give him suited kings. We're going to give him basically the suited hands that can make a straight down to, I think, 7, 7, 4, and 5, 4. I don't think he has. He's got 7, 5. He's got jack 6 as a limp call. So if he's got jack 6, he probably has like queen 6 as well. Just something big. That's 33%, fairly wide. What about his offsuit hands? He's got jack 9, queen 10 off. So I've got this offsuit Broadway, so I'm going to include like the connectors down to 7-6, maybe 6-5 will include. So that's 34% of hands. One thing I did do, his 3-bet stat 0 so far, 0 out of 14. And really on the notes, we only have a 4-bet range, which is kings. So he's probably passive enough to where he's gonna only 3-bet with like kings and aces. I did have 50% ace king and say maybe he would raise with ace king, but with us having 2 aces, it's gonna be hard for him to have those hands. This villain's playing 35-20, 3. He's in the big blind. I think he's going to be coming along with a wide range of hands. We're going to say all suited aces, suited kings, suited queens, all of these connectors, suited hands, some of these offsuit hands here, offsuit aces, that's 40%. That's probably about right. So we see a flop, a king 6-5. See flop a king 6-5, and it checks to me, and I think this is a board where we could bet. I think we probably favor betting if we have the ace of spades a little bit more, because it might mean that villain could have a king, whereas without the ace of spades, it shifts some of that distribution, some of his hand ranges into the spades. Not he already has spades, but we could bet. GTO actually argues for checking some of the time here. Maybe about 30% of the time. On a board similar to this one anyways. 1 high card, 2 lower cards that are semi-connected, either connected or gapper, and we have spades, or we have a flush draw out on the board. And the bet sizing ranges from, it seems like a 33% is about equal to 50% and to a 66%. So it looks like bet sizing could, be evenly split. So I've got nothing wrong with betting here. I probably also have nothing wrong with checking. I think the only thing that might lead me more towards betting would be the fact that we're three-handed, 3-way. So try to be a little bit more straightforward with our bets. And I think that might shift it to a little bit more betting. So I didn't do that. I checked. We have villain bet. He bet 2, bet a small amount. So the question is, what is he going to be betting? So right now, big blind, I'm not surprised. He's checking. I think he's going to be checking everything. This guy bets. I think we're going to be betting maybe top pair, maybe these under pairs. I mean, I'm going to say really just top pair. I mean, for how passive he is. Maybe even the flush draw and the open ender. That's about it. And even these, I'm not too confident that he would do that he would be betting. So at this point, top pair plus, and he bet fairly small. So and I think that is kind of his MO. He only has 33 big blinds left, so let's see here. Actually, I take that back. When he had queens, he bet the pot. When he had the overpair, he bet the pot, so he was betting strongly. So might say that he could include, with that small bet, he could include some of these small pocket pair below the top card, maybe a middle pair, maybe the bottom pair as well, betting small. However, the betting small could be flush draw open ender too. So we'll see how this develops. Villain 6 folds and I call. I mean, there's no, I don't think there's a good reason for me to raise. If I raise, we're gonna blow him off all of those hands, all of the middle pair hands probably. Not sure if we blow off the king hand, depends on his kicker. But we would blow a lot of hands out. I think it might be better just to check call, see what he does. If he comes in with a big bet, we're gonna have to start considering that maybe he has that he's connected more strongly than what this 2 big blind bet looks like. So what am I doing here? I do think we would be betting a set. I think we'd be betting a set. I think we've got percentages is probably what we're looking at. So checking kings is probably what we're gonna do. Probably check sixes as well. And the reason we only have those 2, so we check kings because we don't. I mean, we'll basically have all of the top cards out there. So who's gonna call me? Just basically draws, and that's about it. So what we could do is kind of check. Even with our sixes, and hope villain bets for us, and try to get, maximize our EV. I think checking is going to be the stronger EV play here. And if we're going to be checking all of those, and we're going to be checking probably our top pair as well. Yeah, let's get that. I think we're going to be checking those for sure. Don't think the bottom pair. Ace 5, that's questionable. Possibly the 2 card backdoor flush draws. Maybe. That's kind of risky. I probably would have called with these. I'm not sure if I would have called if I didn't have some sort of flush draw with that. So I think that's going to be my range. And the reason I would do that is because of the bet sizing. It was actually fair. It was small. It was small. So 3 of spades hits. That's not what I wanted to see. I do think we're checking here. Let's X this guy that he folded. I do think we're checking here now. If villain comes in with a bet, with a sizable bet, I think we're going to be confident that he has a spade. But he didn't, so I'm going to say not a flush. Maybe. No, I don't think he has a flush. I think he would have bet that. I think what he would have done was bet all of his flushes, and if I called, then he probably would have checked, unless he had the nut flush draw, or unless he turned the nut flush. If he had the nut flush, then I think he's, he'd be betting again on the river. But he didn't, so we will take out the flush. Possibility of the straight, a set, a 2 pair. We already know he got scared with his queens, so I think he's going to be scared with all of these. We will include the draws, so we're looking at something like that for him. We basically have our entire range here, and we see the river as a 3, and the question is, can we get, if I bet, can we get a call? If I bet, he's going to probably raise a full house. I think he would call with a straight, 3 of a kind. I I think you got a good 2-pair, top pair. So we're gonna say here, good 2-pair. We beat the top pair that I think he would call. I don't know if he would call the under pair at this point. He could just fold. If he calls, he would call with like queens and jacks maybe. So let's do that. Oops, not all of them. We'll say queens and jacks is what he calls. So just right like that. If I bet and he calls, I beat 81% of his hands. So I think this should be a value bet here. 13.5, we should be betting like 7 big blinds, about half the pot. I bet the pot. I'm going to say I don't like that because it gives him reason to fold some of these hands, but at the same time, this does kind of look like it's a bluff. So, and if we're consistent, like if we had the ace of spades, like ace queen, and we called, and we picked up the spade draw, that's great. We've got, we're drawn to the spade, and then we miss. We could bet something like that with the ace of spades because we know he doesn't have, the nut flush. Yes, I think that could work. Definitely, we're gonna have to mix it up. I bet he calls. Now the question is, what are we betting? We're definitely betting all of these hands over pairs. Top pair hands, I do think we're probably betting, but not all of them. I'd say like ace king and king queen are the only ones that we're gonna bet, and then our bluffs are gonna be something like ace high, nothing hands, no pair. Maybe we turn weak pair into a bluff, something like that. So I did bet he called. That's what we're going for. I think we've got our ranges. So I show aces, he shows 10. So he did have that under pair. And it's kind of consistent with how he played. We said, maybe he's going to bet small with those under pairs. I thought he would only call with queens and jacks, but he called with 10s. So what we're going to have to do is take a note on this guy, add to his kind of profile so that when we see him again, we have a better idea of how he's playing this. So we'll be back. All right, took the notes. He bet 25% on the flop, so that was kind of a small bet with an under pair. And then notably, he called a pot size bet in this situation where I could have had a king, had the over pair. I don't know why. I guess he thought I was bluffing. But that's good to know. And maybe that's right at the bottom of his calling range too. So that was good. Overall, I think the play was okay. As I said, I think we could c bet this or we could check call it. Obviously, I think if we check call, I don't think we're going to be betting. We're going to be leading in because the bet size. I think Villain could have had that flush draw, based on his passivity. But yeah, I think I played this hand okay. Not too bad. Glad I won it. So hopefully you enjoy this. If you do, look tomorrow for another.